Today at Manchester Theatres, I am very pleased to be joined by Rebecca Banatvala, who is currently in Northanger Abbey at the Octagon Theatre in Bolton. It is going to be there until the 23rd of March, and as someone who saw it a couple of nights ago, I thoroughly recommend go along. You will be in for a treat. Now, you may have seen Rebecca in other stage shows. She has been in shows such as SAP with the Edinburgh Fringe, which she also toured the UK with, or with the RSC in Much Ado About Nothing, or the Three Musketeers. Equally, you might have seen her on screen in shows such as Vigil, The Syndicate, Emmerdale, or on Netflix in The Princess Switch 3. But we are here to talk all about Northanger Abbey, and I am excited because having seen the show, I'm in it now. I'm all there. So thank you for joining us, because you've literally just come out of a matinee, haven't you?
Yeah, we have, of course. Yeah.
Yeah, crazy, crazy. So we know Northanger Abbey is a Jane Austen novel, but it has been given a fresh voice by the fabulous Zoe Cooper. So can you tell us about your version and your story?
Yeah, so essentially, the book is kind of exploring storytelling and the way we see the world and how that's influenced by the narratives that exist within our sphere. Because Cath, who I play, who imagines herself into being a heroine, is obsessed with all of these gothical novels and sees her life like that. And what Zoe's done brilliantly is she's taken those themes, but she has queered them up. So looking at representation within that and queer romance and how that is just something that is not, we don't see until late 20th century in any books. So when she read the book as a 19-year-old, what really struck her was that friendship between Cath and the strength of it, and the comparative woodenness of the relationship between Cath and Hen, the romantic relationship, which didn't feel rich and exciting in the same way that relationship between the two girls did. So what Zoe has done is she has brought that into the story, and also really captured, I think, Jane Austen's tongue-in-cheek humour. It's a really hilarious, fun adaptation. And she's also moved Cath to the north, because in the book she's from Salisbury, but Cath has made her from the Yorkshire Dales, essentially, which also is brings a lot of comic humour in terms of that sort of south-north divide, going to Bath and all of that.
It's brilliant. It's great listening to you talk now, because obviously your accent in the show is just so Yorkshire. It's brilliant. So tell us a little bit more about Cath. We know, like, from what you've said, she lives in this fantastical world of imagination, and she tends to blur the lines of reality and her own fiction, doesn't she?
Yeah, I think that she's someone who really craves adventure and loves stories, and we see that actually who she is very different to who she wants to be. She wants to be that heroine, that gorgeous woman who's very sort of held and delicate, whereas actually she's very she loves rolling around in the mud and having a scrap with her brothers. And I think in that time there wasn't really there wasn't many alternatives for women in terms of how you saw yourself. And I think she's so desperate to not be like her mum and to have loads and loads of children and be doing all of the housework. And she sees this kind of escape through romance, through Bath, through meeting all of these people, this other world. And she sees an alternative to what her life could be. Yeah, but she's a very warm, she makes so many mistakes and she really hurts people, but she fundamentally really cares, and just throws herself into life in a way that I think is so endearing.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, I think that's why she's so likable, because she does make mistakes, and you've not got this perfect heroine there. It's like a real person. So yeah,
exactly. And she's from a very small village. She hasn't really grown up with knowing many people, many friends, many even other adults. So she goes very naive to Bath. And as you will no doubt see, a lot transpires because of that.
It does. So there's three of you in this cast. However, there are many, many, many more characters. And I wanted to ask you, because I've seen multi-rolling before. Obviously, you all play lots of different roles, and I've seen that before. I'm sure we all have. But I've never seen it quite in this way, where there is no boundary. You've got, you know, the typically male character playing the mum, giving birth, and you've got, but also as well as the sort of like no boundaries with gender. What also fascinates me is the fact that you're switching the roles, the multi roles that you're doing, you switch within the scene. So one moment you might be playing a role, but then the next might be playing that role. And have you ever kind of multi-rolled in that way before?
Yeah, I have. At the last show that I did, SAP, that you were talking about, I was playing both the brother and the sister. And so that was kind of interesting in terms of finding that sibling similarity. And also she was like a slightly butcher lesbian and he was a man. So finding how do you inhabit that physicality of a man as opposed to a woman who's quite masc presenting. But in this show, I think AK we counted it was like 20 characters or something ridiculous, that they have a lot of characters in this. Yeah. So I've never done anything quite to that extent. And I think that there's been lots of ways of finding that vocally or through physicality. Yeah, and it's great. And I think also because of who the characters are, because Hen and Is and Cath, actually, they don't conform to gender stereotypes in a way that we would traditionally expect of, say, an Austen. And that is in the text, really. Like Henry Tilney's love of muslins, all of that, that's really present. And I think that the kind of playing with gender in this way also kind of opens up those characters to perhaps explore things that they wouldn't be able to explore in that time.
It certainly keeps you on your toes, because you've touched on it there. You know, there's so many characters, which means every time you're all performing, you're given these different vocal techniques, but different accents, different physicalities. And then you've got this element where your characters are putting a play on and telling us, the audience, this story. But when you break that fourth wall, you're not coming out of it as actors. You are the characters who are. So again, that's, I mean, how do you keep up? It's like
it's quite difficult. We spent a lot of time trying to keep up in rehearsals. But we got there in the end.
There's a lot going on, isn't there? And also the movement. Honestly, I swear, I was watching you all, and like you're getting on and off tables that are moving around and stuff, but you're not just like clambering up like me. I'd be like, oh, you like all just step on the table as if it's a curb. You know, you've got tables up here, just like, I just step on it. I mean, the physicality in this show is, I mean, have you had any kind of like whoa moments?
Yes, there have been some whoa moments, definitely. And I think when we were first with the table, figuring out how to lock it, there was a few sort of like, oh, no, we're going to fall. What's going to happen? But we worked with Johnny, our movement director, figuring out all of the movement sequences, and with Tessa as well, our director. And so that was really helpful, because he would sort of bring in a movement language, and then we'd create the movement from that language. So it always felt quite organic. It never felt like we were jumping suddenly and having to do all of this crazy stuff. Yeah. It felt like we built it up slowly, and you do just get quite fit, to be honest. Doing this show day in, day out, you like it's kind of a workout, which is great.
You're definitely getting your steps in.
Yeah.
And what I love about the movement as well is you mentioned humour, and the way that humour is injected into it so much. I mean, there's just tiny little details where, you know, you're on the horse and carriage, and you're all, apart from one of you, and they're like, oh, okay, so I'll join in. But then the biggest take for me with the movement was the dancing, and the heart. It was like spoofed, but in a fun way. It wasn't insulting. It was so hilarious, the dancing. Do you have as much fun kind of doing that as we do watching it?
Oh yeah, we had so much fun, playing around with that. I think at one point Sam was trying out some sort of like Regency dab, where he'd be like trying to like dab his way through the scene. But it's great because it's just in rehearsals, it's a lot of kind of like experimenting, seeing what works. Johnny comes and offers loads of great suggestions, and then seeing what works with the text in terms of the story that we're telling. So how do we allow the movement to enhance the story as opposed to detract from it?
Yeah.
but mainly hilarity.
It is. I love it. It was so much fun, so much fun. And again, you've mentioned, but there's again with humor as well. There's representation in this book that is often missing, whether it be, you know, gender, sexuality, class, women, or just like you've said, the fact that it's been moved to the north and there is that north-south divide. And again, the humor with that, with I don't want to give too much away, but I'm like, oh, because I've got you. But when you say the word bucket and you're corrected, and there's just little moments of pronunciation and things like that. I mean, it's just a joy for that, isn't it, to get that representation. I think that was being from the north. I think that was those little accent moments really spoke to me as well. Is there any particular bits that you love in it?
Oh, I do love that bucket moment. That is such a great moment. And yes, also I tell you what I love is the General Tilney scene at the table when he's very sort of stiff and Cath bangs on about, like, my mum was saying this and that I love this, and then he turns to Henry and goes, "My mum." That's a really great little, I think Zoe like observes it really well, that that kind of comedy that comes from Southerners thinking, oh, this is the way that one should talk. And then Cath just being like, well, you know, I talk like this.
It's fabulous. And one thing that I wanted to ask you was the chandeliers. Okay.
Oh,
so there's these chandeliers, for people who haven't seen it yet, coming down from above. There's a few of them and they kind of dance, don't they? So that they're moving around at all different times. Now, anyone who knows me would know that if I was on that stage by now, it would be chandeliers 10, me 0. How do you cope with these dancing chandeliers?
Yeah, I mean, it is difficult. In tech, we spent a lot of time looking at when they're coming down and when and making sure that we're in the right place. There has been a couple of instances when we were teching when I think I was running like backwards into them when everyone suddenly shouted "stop," and then luckily I did in time. But they've been a bit. They're quite tricky to work out. I mean, they look great, but it's a lot of moving parts that we all have to sort of fit in. And when I was feeling. I've not been feeling particularly well these past few shows, and I think in one of them my arm was sort of like flailing out, like hitting the chandeliers all over the place, no sense of awareness at all. But Jeanette is so on it. She's our company stage manager, and she's in control of all of that. So if she sees something that's going to go disastrously wrong, she will just stop it.
Yeah, hike them away. And what struck me as well, so the Octagon Theatre, it's a very unique shape, and as a cast, you so make use of that space. It's brilliant the way it's been directed. You're coming in from every possible entrance point, not just directly onto the stage, but through us, the audience. When you're moving, because obviously you're not just doing this at the Octagon, so when you're moving from theatre to theatre, do you then have to get in and almost restage and rework?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of depends theatre to theatre. The last one that we were at was in the round. So basically you had audience on all sides like the Octagon, but it was a slightly different shape. So we were able to kind of pretty much take what we had and adjust it slightly and see like where are the strong points now in the Octagon, where what works and what doesn't. And there's a degree of that will happen when we put the show in, and then we'll kind of see in a few performances what works and start to like feel it out a bit more. But it's going to be really difficult when we go to Theatre by the Lake, because that we are end on, so the audience are all just in front of us as opposed to in the round. And I think that is going to require some hefty reblocking, and we'll see what happens.
I must keep it exciting for you as well, though, because even though it's the same play, it's like, oh, okay, it's a challenge, isn't it? It's what do we do now?
Yeah, and that's I think something that's really nice about going to a new space with the play is that it becomes something else, and because the audience are so involved with this play, it changes as well with them. Like we're getting very different laughs here than we were getting in Richmond, and people are enjoying different parts, and you sort of learn the feel of like here it feels like everyone's really up for being involved.
Yeah.
And so making sure that we pull them in as much as possible and make them different characters in the play and stuff like that. And yeah, it's good fun.
It's so much fun. And do you know, it's been an absolute treat chatting to someone when I've seen the play, when I've literally just seen it. It's such a different way around for me to be able to chat to someone as well, having seen the play. So thank you so much, Rebecca. Honestly, it's been absolutely brilliant chatting with you. I know you've got another show to go and do, so we will let you crack on.
Yes. That's why my hair is like this. This is not my look. This is Regency.
Well, it's beautiful, Regency. I have no excuse as to why my hair looks like this, unfortunately, other than I've just been teaching children, so it's just like that.
Your hair looks lovely.
But yeah, you can catch Northanger Abbey at the Octagon Theatre, Bolton, till the 23rd of March. I thoroughly recommend it. It is funny, it is quick, it is clever. Go along and watch this fantastic cast. And as Rebecca has said, feel involved in it, because you really, really will. Thank you so much for your time, and all the best with the rest of the run.
Thanks very much.
I'm loving it. I think it's like absolutely hilarious. And yeah, it's well good. I think it's really good. Like, you can tell it's really empowering.
I thought the show was excellent. It was a free stage show, but the actors were amazing. So many characters, so many scenes. Fantastic.
It's absolutely fantastic. It's so energetic and really easy to follow, despite how many characters there are with only 3 actors.
Intimate, empowering, and bold.
Energetic, definitely.
Camp.
And genuinely hilarious. It's absolutely wonderful. It's really exciting, and it's it epitomizes a new and imagined version of a period piece. Didn't really know much about it, hadn't kind of read the book or anything, but yeah, it's very different to anything I've seen before. I'm enjoying it so far, yeah.
I'm really enjoying the humour of the show. It's really playful, and the physicality is really fantastic.
Audiences should come and watch this show because it's jokes. It's really funny, it's really fun and frothy, but it's also a queer twist on like a classic novel.
I found it very entertaining, and I thought it was a very different take on the book, and I loved the twists and turns in it, and I loved the energy of it. Fantastic.
It was both funny, it was educational, it was emotional.
I think it was profound, it was funny, they were engaging. I'd definitely say come and see it.